We all know Rome wasn't built in a day. We all know it takes time, but the hydrogen industry is certainly progressing. It's moving forward, and it's showing that it has that staying power.
Hello and a very warm welcome to another episode of Energy Frontiers, brought to you from our studio in Baku. This month we look at the hype surrounding hydrogen at a time when the supply side is scaling, but demand remains a significant bottleneck. The CEO of the Hydrogen Council will share her view on whether global projects are likely to be delivered or delayed in the years ahead. But first, here's an overview of the coalition's latest findings.
The hydrogen industry has passed a major milestone, with $110 billion of committed investment globally in more than 500 low-carbon hydrogen projects. That's according to the first Global Hydrogen Compass report, which points to the sector's challenges having shifted from ambition to execution. Amongst the biggest constraints to market growth, policy implementation and demand creation. And despite the industry maturing, around 50 early-stage projects have been cancelled in the past 18 months. 97% of industry leaders surveyed by the Council maintain hydrogen is a critical decarbonisation solution, but they also warn that cost competitiveness and infrastructure gaps remain significant challenges as hydrogen enters its next phase of build-out.
Ivana, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me from Hamburg today.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Great to be here. Great to join Energy Frontiers.
Let me start by asking you about hydrogen, because it was long hailed as the fuel of the future. But some analysts are now saying that the hype is over. So is it dead, or is it simply maturing and growing up?
Thank you for starting us with such a provocative question, Rebecca. Really appreciate it. And look, the growing up is a good way to think about what's happening in hydrogen right now. Just like solar, wind, or batteries before, hydrogen is navigating the same cycle of excitement, announcements, but then ultimately moving to a much more disciplined era of maturation. You know that at the Hydrogen Council, we are tracking every single publicly announced project out there. And the numbers tell an incredibly clear story. We're really seeing that shift from ambition to delivery.
As we know, Azerbaijan overlaps well strategically with the Hydrogen Council's ambitions, not least when it comes to advancing cross-border trade routes, but also certification standards across the board. So can you give me a regional perspective and also a global one when it comes to pipeline projects right now?
So let me start with some of the most striking numbers from our recent report. 110 billion in committed capital, over 510 projects past FID, so final investment decision, in construction, in operation. So that is a real shift. And what I'm most excited about personally is not just these great numbers, it's really the trajectory behind them. So if we look at the progress over the last 5 years, we are seeing 50% year-on-year growth. And the difference between 2020 and where we are today is we have 10 times more in committed capital. That's really significant. And that's where seeing all the regions, really come through on project delivery. China is dominating both in terms of overall committed capital, but also in terms of renewable hydrogen production. Second place is North America, leading on low carbon hydrogen production, thanks to longstanding experience and infrastructure for molecules. Third, Europe. Things have been a little slow, to be honest, although Europe has all the ingredients to be extremely successful as a number one demand center in the world. As you know, hydrogen is at its best when it connects countries, regions with abundant resources. You mentioned Azerbaijan. So we're really excited about these developments and seeing that countries are leaning in their strengths, which is extremely encouraging.
Plenty to be encouraged by, absolutely. But also, conversely, plenty of projects have been stalled or delayed. And of course, the next big test will be demand. So my question is really, when will policy commitments and pilot projects really turn into truly bankable offtake at scale?
Look, demand really is our next big test. And you mentioned Baku, Azerbaijan. We were very proud to represent the industry at COP29 last year, where we supported the hydrogen declaration. And it was really all about how we activate demand. And I'm glad to report that we've achieved some progress in just the last 12 months, whether it's Japan moving forward with its contracts for different schemes, whether it's Korea organizing some of the first auctions for hydrogen and derivatives, whether it's Europe coming forward with the clean industrial deal and the promise of more practical, pragmatic policy making and rule making for hydrogen. However, it really boils down to the follow through. We know that if we can fully implement and enforce 4 key pieces of legislation, that is the Renewable Energy Directive in Europe, the contracts for different schemes in Japan and Korea, and the tax credit schemes in the US, we can unlock 8 million tons per year of business cases, of clean hydrogen demand business cases across those 4 markets. And that would be a real moment of lift. So we have our work cut out for us and really moving very decisively in that direction.
Great to have you on the ground here in Baku for COP29, Ivana. My question is, how well are we positioned as nations as we head into COP30 in Brazil? Are we going to deliver on the promises that were made already?
It's really about accelerating action and moving from those, big announcements, target setting to delivery, to building projects. And I'm glad to report that both on the business side as well as the policy side, this is now fully recognized. And we are heading into COP30 with our focus exactly on those areas. How do we put in place the right demand signals, the right incentives? How do we make sure that we can create what some refer to as lead markets? So the end users where we can really move forward in the near term and make sure that the commercials that the business works.
All important to have those commercials, absolutely. Ivana, we have to leave it there, but thank you again for your time with Euronews today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Rebecca.
Well, that's a wrap of this episode of Energy Frontiers, brought to you from our studio in Baku, Azerbaijan. Thanks for watching, and head to euronews.com for more. I'll see you soon.